Welcome to the Casual Observer. I'm your host, Daniel. This is the cricket edition, and we are diving straight in. There's not a whole lot to talk about, but there's enough. So we're going to get through the England Test squad, some revelations there. That's coming up for Pakistan, which starts on the 13th, so 3 days from now. Very exciting stuff. Good to have Test cricket back, but first we're going to talk about the 100 that's currently going on in England, and just my takes from it. It's one of a kind, that's for sure. We've seen 10 over cricket, we've seen 20 over cricket, 50 over cricket, Test cricket. We've seen all sorts of different things where there's split innings, 40 overs, 20, 20, 20, 20. The 100's just 100 balls. Very easy to follow. I think it's in its sixth season now, and it's had private equity put into it. So private ownership has now come and mainly from India, bought up, I think, all 8 teams. Maybe 10 teams, can't remember. Look, it's at a very hard time for us to watch in WA. It's, I think it starts at about 2 a.m. So, look, I'm not getting up night after night at 2 a.m. That's going to get very bad on the health. But when you watch the highlights, and I've even sat down and watched a few of the games Mitch Marsh is playing in, very entertaining. I didn't really like the 100 when it first started. The idea was a bit much for my brain to wrap around. I don't like change. But, I mean, the graphics as well were horrendous. If you remember back or go watch an old 100 game, they would climb up as the first innings is going on. They would climb up on the sides of the screen, the score and the number of balls. And then the team chasing in the second innings, they would slowly decrease. And I hated those graphics so much. I was born in an era where graphics were just like a luxury. So, watching Test cricket, say Australia versus India or England, 06, 07, 08, and you had, 3 sponsoring Australian cricket. I mean, don't think 3 even exists anymore. But all they had was all of the gameplay and vision, and then this little box in the top left corner that would have the score, 120 for 3. And then occasionally it'd pop down with the batsman scores, bowlers figures. It wouldn't have how many balls have gone, anything like that. So they were simpler times. But yeah, the graphics that the 100 first came out with were, it was a lot going on. And it wasn't that great to watch. Didn't make for a great viewing experience, really, in my opinion. Maybe at the ground, very different. But these franchises have had now 5 years to build up fan equity and loyalty and support and people knowing who's playing for what team, what the teams are called, and private ownership has come in and it's all changed. The draft is a staple in India. I don't love it, but, being Australian, I guess we're not going to agree. And I only don't love it because I like the loyalty. Believe me, I love the NBA for its trades and I love free agency, but this is not that. And as a player, I'd like a bit more player empowerment, some choice of where I'm going to go. So, Surrey basically was a great example of, they had this power-packed lineup last year. Excuse me if I get it a bit wrong, but I believe it was, I might be getting my teams confused here, but, Laurie Evans, Jason Roy, Jordan Cox, the Curran brothers, Dan Lawrence, Ollie Pope, the players just kept coming. They were such a stacked squad. And now, Cox has been moved on, and then I think one of the Curran brothers has been moved on, if not both. Lawrence is with another team. It's changed, and change is inevitable, and that's something we've all got to get used to. But it's just not, I can imagine for the fans. I mean, this is 100 balls each side. It's actually very easy to follow, but it doesn't seem to have the fanfare. And I think half of that reason is just the fact that the fans don't like the fact that they have to buy new gear, new merch to fit in. The old Super Giants or whatever it was. That was a purple lineup. Now that's like the Sunrisers. So that's now bright orange. You've got to change your whole kit. And as a fan, it's just more money. Now the teams have changed. There's going to be new players every year, which happens anyway, but much more turnover. And so I think we're going to be looking at a little bit of a decrease in viewership initially, especially at games. Half the games I've watched has been empty crowds, not empty, but only half full. And it's just stuff that you kind of think like could have been avoided if you even if you had the private ownership come in. And I know you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this, but just have a bit of patience, like build the product, keep the teams the way they were, the same names, the same gear, the same setup, and then over the years slowly introduce changes, slowly introduce a kit change, then a draft, then, those kind of things. That way fans have a real attachment to the team and, you can kind of just understand who's playing where. If they move on, it's a big loss, those kind of things. But, it's happened, it's gone, and hopefully it rebuilds what it had built in the first 5 years, because after watching last year's 100, a fair bit of it actually. Good quality, and it's actually a really fun idea for a format. This might be blasphemous, I kind of prefer it over T20. I think 140, 150 is like the perfect game. 200 in 100 balls is basically like pure domination for the batting side. And it's still nice to see the ball do a little bit. So as much as, some of these games might be a little bit boring when teams get rolled for 80 chasing 200. The games that are 140, 150 playing another 140, 150, like so entertaining. Like that's still 1.5 runs every ball. Like it's not a small asking rate. So, you usually see in a T20 if a team's chasing 140, like this is a boring ass game. But the 100 balls makes it very easy to figure out, to follow. And it's really made me question why there's 6 ball overs in the first place. Like the number 6 is pretty fucking random. But I get it. Like, the big boss man in India said, like, it's the only format. People grow up thinking that an over's 6 balls and now an over's 5 or 10 in the 100, and it's just really confusing. I get that aspect of it, but I still think it's actually a really nice change of pace with different tactics. And it just makes a whole new, like, tactical side of the game, like, come to life. What I mean by that is in 100 balls, you're allowed 5 ball overs. But if you're bowling well, you can go back-to-back and bowl 10 ball overs. And with that, you can't bowl more than 10, but they also have to be from the same end. So if you think there's half a chance that you're going to be bowling 10 straight, you have to start at the even numbers. So if there's 90 balls, 80 balls, 70 balls, those kind of things, like because they change ends every 10 balls instead of every over. So that speeds the game up as well, mind you. Like players aren't having to run 150 metre sprint, fine leg to fine leg like I do. But it's a tactical side of things. Like I've seen some bowlers go, they'll bowl 15 balls, not in a row, but 15 balls and have gone for 8 runs. And then that last 5, they go for 20. And it's ruined their entire day. And that's just because they were bowled so well at the start, where they bowled 5, then they got the 10 in a row, and they were just tired a batsman down, and then by the end of the game when they come back, they've been sent. And it's so similar to T20, but it's also incredibly different. So the product, look, there's certain teams I'd watch over others. Any of the London teams, I'd probably say no thank you. But, Mitch Marsh's team with Harry Brook, Ryan Rickleton, Zach Crawley, they're a fun fucking team. They can be a bit hit and miss, but I mean, Jordan Cox has been pulled out of the Welsh Fire team, which last year had Steve Smith and Johnny Bairstow. They're not there. Jordan Cox has come out of that team, and that team got a whole lot weaker now. There's some teams that are really enjoyable to watch. Rachin Ravindra from New Zealand has come along, and he's been piling some real pain on at that number 4 position. But you've seen batting orders be a lot more fluid as well. So you're not just always stuck batting at 4. Like we've seen Laurie Evans open. Like, fuck me, like playing for the Perth Scorchers, Laurie Evans did not bat like half the season. So he was at number 5 or 6 and couldn't get a go. So, when you're chasing high scores, 180 plus, like you need power from the start. And we've seen with a few of these teams where the opening partnership hasn't worked and they're dead. They're dead on arrival. So you're seeing different tactics of these power players, even though it's harder against a new ball, open. And so it's really, really enjoyable, some of the tactics. So I quite enjoy the idea of, not changing overs, changing ends every over. I think that's smart. Speeds up the game. And the other thing is allowing 10 ball overs, like back to back. Like, you may have been on a heater for the first 5 balls, untouchable. It may have gone for 1 or 2 runs in your first 5 balls, but there's no guarantee the next 5 balls are going to be perfect. There's definitely no guarantees in life. So I would love to see, some of those tactics potentially brought into the international game. And I'd hate to see the 100 idea just scrapped as a whole, because I've actually, even from Australia, quite like this idea. 5 ball overs are very easy to follow. The tactic of 10, awesome. If you basically, if you're following along and you see Ollie Pope, he's been batting 7 and 8 half this damn competition because he doesn't have a great strike rate and the openers have gotten off to a good start, so he slides. Instead of batting 3, he ends up batting 8 for 2 balls. Like, the selfless things going on. And yeah, you can just see these players with more power they're getting prioritised at the moment, which is so awesome to see. So, batting orders are changing. Harry Brooks batted 5 one game, bats 3 most of the time. Like, just depends on the situation. Mitch Marsh and Mickelson get off to a good start. Sorry, Zach Crawley, you're on the way down. You've got Dan Lawrence sitting there. There's just a lot of tactical nous that goes into this, and it's at the end of the day, it's just human beings playing a sport, but when the tactics come into it, it makes it so much more fun, and that's what I love about most of the sports that I have a huge interest in. It's the tactical side of it, the strategy, especially in cricket. Like, how do you work over a batsman that's in the best form? Like, how do you end up getting him out? Like, is it him making a mistake, or have you found a chink in that armour? In the NBA, are you targeting on defense the worst player, the smallest player, the weakest player? Or are you getting their best player in a bunch of pick and rolls and trying to tire them out for the end of the game? Like, tactics, I love it. So the 100's offered something different, and I'm here for it. So let's hope it doesn't go away, and crowds in England get back amongst it once teams settle, and hopefully they, just because this product works in India doesn't mean it's going to work everywhere. And that's what I'm saying. You can, still bring in the draft, but maybe have slightly longer contracts in England. And if you do the same, if Australia, God forbid, privatises, it's hopefully we can keep our names, Perth Scorchers, Adelaide Strikers, those kind of teams, and also have longer contracts with our players, so we can get used to them being around for 3, 4, 5 years instead of every year teams shuffling in and out. So just more on some of the players on the fringe, and not only that, getting these rookies in as well, like getting some of these players to actually that are not just bench warming the whole time, whether that means more teams. Same in England, they've got their one-day cup going on right now. You never know about it. There's no coverage whatsoever, at least in Australia. So at least there's concurrent cricket going on, that the players that aren't playing in the 100 are still playing cricket. And that's super key right now. But it obviously prioritises the shorter form over the 50-over format, even though there's a World Cup next year. Next, the Ben Stokes interview with for the love of cricket with Joss Butler and Stuart Broad. Love Broady. Even as an Australian now, he's retired. You can actually say he's quite actually an enjoyable listen. It may not be everyone's cup of tea as a commentator, but should I enjoy it? Ben Stokes. It was a fun interview, but kind of gave nothing away. Almost a bit of a sourpuss interview, in my opinion. Maybe I read it wrong, but I don't know. It was didn't really reveal anything we didn't already know. He wasn't giving anything away. It's too spicy or juicy. And so, I respect the fact that Ben and Joss asked the questions, and I also respect the fact he doesn't have to answer that. But yeah, it didn't give us anything too funky. The one thing that was new to me and took out of it was at the end when he said, I think Stuart asked why did you open? In that 4th innings against New Zealand of the 3rd game. And he basically just said, by that stage, even before my retirement, I said I was probably going to open just to try and attack the new ball, which is the hardest time to bat, which is all well and good, but there's a lot of things that go into that. If you'd already decided that, why did it seem like such a shock to Emilio Gay? Why did you get off to such a good start? None for 50. Ben Duckett was just playing the supporting role. And then you kept going at the same pace. Like, that was the time to, as a professional, international quality cricketer with 7 fielders on the boundary, maybe just knock it around a little bit. And in fairness, in his response to that, he said, "Oh, well, if I did that, then the slips would come back in, and that's when I was going to be in danger." Well, hacking one to mid-wicket's also not a great idea, but, we divulge. Jesus, that was, I don't know. I didn't love that. Saying that the pitch was, popping and staying low and, it was doing everything. It was ragging. And it wouldn't have been fair to not open after deciding that just because he was retiring. You've got to be quite fluid in your tactics, in my opinion. If you did decide that day 2, and then suddenly by day 4, couldn't possibly go away from opening. Emilio Gay's earned the right to open, and he's done a good job. And yes, again, you got off to a rollicking start, none for 50, but you also try to reverse lap a ball second ball. It seems like you're taking the fucking piss. So I don't know. I think after watching Daryl Mitchell take body bruises, it really just comes down to the fact that England thought, if we're going to chase down these runs, we've got to do it how we did it 4 years ago, which is balls to the wall attack. And if it gets too hard, swing harder, which is, again, if it's a bit of fool's gold because it worked for them for the first 2.5 years of Bazball. And it's actually very entertaining to watch because they're not giving up. So I rate that aspect of it. But it's the brain part where you've got all the fielders on the fence and that same shot that you hacked to mid-wicket, all you had to do was survive another 40 minutes and you're back for day 5, none down. But instead, you kept hacking your way through it and got caught at mid-wicket, the only fielder in the ring on the leg side at the time. So I would say you probably weren't doing a service to yourself, the public, or England cricket. But, if you want to say that it was just part of the tactics and we had to keep going so the slips stayed away, go down swinging. If that's your belief, awesome. Anyone that's played cricket, I've been playing all my life. I don't know, man. I think tactically and mentally, I would have gone a different route, and we know you could do it because we've seen it, especially as Australian. We've been hurt many times by your tactics. So it seemed like you were just mentally done. You were frustrated. You were worn out, and it showed. So you go out with a 30 off 20, some audacious shots, and kind of, a bit of an unfulfilled promise there was a bit more, but it was left out there, unfortunately. So that was my takeaway from the end of that interview. But hey, hell of an interview, hell of a podcast. Give it a listen if you haven't already. So lastly, England squad has been announced for Pakistan, which again starts in 3 days. Awesome. We've got, 2 obvious changes. Ben Stokes is out, and the all-rounder aspect really has to be covered. So the 2 changes I was thinking was they're going to bring in, a batter and a bowler. You already had Rian Ahmed in the squad. However, they went a very different way. Forced change. Jacob Bethel has a knee injury and I don't think he's really has taken part in the 100 yet, and now won't be part of this first 2 games of this series. Forced change there, forced change with Ben Stokes. But Jordan Cox comes back in, which I think he's a great player. And so, I only had in my prediction that they were going to go with James Rue because James Rue was initially the best batsman in England, according to them, last series. So they've gone away from James Rue. That's fine. Obviously, they see him as more of a middle order player, which is, again, no shame in that. Cox, I think, has batted 3 for Essex before, mainly at number 4. But hey, I think giving him a go at number 3 is perfect. I think Jordan Cox can play cricket for many, many years and have that position his own. And Bethel can be a long-term 4 or 6, depending how long Joe Root plays for. So anyway, we're getting off topic. So Jordan Cox comes in. Ollie Robinson obviously back in. They've retained Shoaib Bashir. Bryden Cast comes in. Ollie Pope comes in. Dan Lawrence comes in. Sam Cooke comes in. And Matt Fisher is also retained. So no Rian Ahmed. I thought Liam Patterson-White was going to get a call-up. No Liam Patterson-White. I really wanted to put Dan Lawrence in my mock selections, but I thought England cricket had kind of said, fuck you. So this is a awesome shock to see him called up because he deserves it. He's been piling on the runs for Surrey, taking wickets. Does he bowl a bit weird? Sure. But I think he's well and truly earned it. So, shock call up for me was more Ollie Pope and Sam Cook. I think Sam Cook genuinely deserves it. Taken bags of wickets for fun for the last many years for Essex, but I just thought England had also looked him by. So, between Ollie Pope, Dan Lawrence and Sam Cook, there's plenty to talk about. But yeah, don't really understand the retention of Matt Fisher. Obviously, look, Bryden Cast comes back in, but I think he was beloved by Ben Stokes and Baz McCullum. I think under Stephen Fleming and Joe Root, I'm not sure he walks straight back into the side. And the team makeup's going to be very interesting. So my predicted 11 for the first game in 3 days is Ben Duckett, Emilio Gay. Lock him in. No funny business. No changing of the openers. Jordan Cox has already said he's batting 3. Done. Joe Root at 4. Harry Brook at 5. That's the easy part. The prediction starts here. I think they're going to go Jamie Smith at 6. Gus Atkinson at 7. Ollie Robertson at 8. Jofra Archer at 9. Josh Tongue at 10. And Shoaib Bashir at 11. Reason for thinking that is I don't think without Bethel that there's any other secondary spinner other than Joe Root, and I don't think Joe Root's exactly wanting to bowl himself plenty of overs while captaining, while batting. And so I think they're going to need someone to take a bulk of the overs. And look, Shoaib Bashir, to his credit, I bagged him out. He looked brilliant when he played. Didn't take a bag or anything like that, but he looked much more threatening, confident, good body language. So I respect the retention there. He wasn't on my predicted list still, but again, I was trying to predict what England were doing, and as it turns out, predicting what England cricket is doing is impossible. But I think keeping Bashir in, especially if you don't have Rian Ahmed or Liam Patterson-White, and I don't think they trust Dan Lawrence's spin enough to have him at 6. So again, predicting what England, who the fuck knows? But that's my predicted 11. So Duckett, Gay, Cox, Root, Brook, Smith, Atkinson, Robinson, Archer, Tongue, Bashir, with the 5 on the sideline being Bryden Cast, Ollie Pope, Dan Lawrence, Sam Cook and Matt Fisher. I think with that lineup, look, that's a lot of batting responsibility with the top 6 plus Atkinson and Robinson, but Archer can hold his own. Tongue and Bashir are walking bunnies. But I think they'll want that kind of pace attack along with some support for Bashir against Pakistan. But Pakistan did win their second game against West Indies, so I also got that wrong. I thought West Indies were going to take a 2-0 win there. So unfortunately the Windies collapsed and they chased it down, 8 down. So well done to Pakistan there to tie that series 1-1. But I think their pace attack is going to be quite intriguing, and I don't think England really rate what Pakistan's bringing over bowling-wise, which is fair. That's the predicted for me. What I would do is different. I like the idea of having a bit of diversity in your attack. Obviously, look, no left-handers here or anything like that, but I like the idea of their top 5 staying the same, so Duckett, Gay, Cox, Root, Brook, but one of Ollie Pope or Dan Lawrence at 6, lengthen that batting lineup. Ollie Pope's always batted it better at 6 in my opinion. That series in New Zealand where he was keeping wicket and was at 6 and Bethel was at 3, I thought that was the best Ollie Pope has looked in years. So I wouldn't be surprised if they think if Ollie Pope has good leadership potential, get him back in the side to help Brookie and Rooty out, then 6 I think is the perfect spot for him. Otherwise, Dan Lawrence, all-rounder. Provides some spin options, and that means you don't have to select Bashir if you're not that way inclined. So, bit of give and take here because do you have the all-rounder or do you just go batting and bowling? That's up to England. But yeah, so I would go one of Pope or Lawrence, then Smith at 7. And I like the idea of Sam Cook getting a go just because in English conditions, he's the kind of bowler that isn't going to trouble you pace-wise. He sits around 130, but he's just, like a Glenn McGrath, Josh Hazlewood type from Australia, where he just hits the same line, same length, gets a good bit of swing going on like Jimmy Anderson, and so I think you could get a lot from Sam Cook on this pitch. But I think if you're having Dan Lawrence in, say, Bashir's out, you bring in Sam Cook. That's just a straight swap there. And then if Lawrence is in, obviously you just take out maybe Ollie Robinson or Gus Atkinson. I think Archer and Tongue have to play. So, if I had to name 11, it would be Duckett, Gay, Cox, Root, Brook. It would be Lawrence, Smith, Robinson, Archer, Tongue, Cook. But as I said, I really liked how Shoaib Bashir looked last time, and if he keeps that up, then I think he's a walk-in starter. So, I would be interested to see what you all think. I'd be very interested to see what England select in a couple of days' time. But, I could see, it's a good bit of diversity in the squad. As I said, people that are probably unfortunate to miss out are Rian Ahmed. Don't really know what happened to him. He was good enough first series to be in the squad, and now he's not, which probably speaks to his lack of bowling, or belief in his bowling at least. And look, I think he's actually overrated anyway. I think he should be batting, 5 instead of 3, and bowling a bit more. But, that's just me from the outside. James Rew, as I said, unlucky to miss out, was the best batsman in England, backup batsman. Now, isn't even part of the squad. Ollie Pope comes back in. Interesting. I don't think he can go back into number 3, so he has to be 4 or lower. Bryden Castle was injured last time. He walks in. I love the fact that Dan Lawrence got caught up. Matt Fisher's an interesting one. Doesn't offer much pace, swing, accuracy, batting. I know we got a 50 in the last series, but that was blah. Very interesting squad. A bit unlucky on some players. I said Liam Patterson-White's another one. I thought Jack Haynes from Nottinghamshire pretty close to knocking on that door. I can never say this guy's name, but Tawanda Mayeye, look, hasn't got the runs, but at least has the potential. There's plenty of options in England cricket. They're just consistency and giving people a proper go. So chopping and changing not going to be the go. So I would expect that for the first 2 games, whatever side they select stays the same for the first 2 games, barring injury. But give us your predictions. I'll post this on Insta. Until next time, after the first few days of the England-Pakistan game, bye for now.